Unfortunately, the Lakers are in this space where they're going to miss the playoffs. They're going to miss the play-in, Mike.
That's what I wanted to get to. So it's Clippers, Warriors, Spurs at San Antonio, at Houston, which spunky young team, Washington at home, at Phoenix, Toronto at home, playoff team, then a 4-game road trip at Minnesota, at Toronto, at Washington cross country, at Cleveland, home against Philly, at the Pelicans, at the Mavericks, at the Jazz. So this is, look all these road games. Then at home against the Pelicans, home against the Nuggets, at Phoenix, at Golden State, Oklahoma City at home, at Denver. Michael, over under in the last 21 games, do the Lakers win 7 of them joints?
Okay.
I mean, this may get super ugly.
It's going to get uglier than that. Because I'm taking the under. I'm going to tell you why I'm taking this. I'll tell you why I'm taking the under.
This could be really bad.
When those losses start to accumulate, and it's obvious, it's inevitable anyway.
But here's where
Los Angeles, their fans have seen a lot of championship. They've seen great basketball for the last 50 years, if not longer. They've seen a lot of great basketball. This is not it.
So we called it back on March 3rd, and yet it's still unreal. Stop me if you've heard this before. The Suns eliminated the Los Angeles Lakers, except not from the playoffs, but this time from play-in / playoff contention altogether. It is official. The loss to the Suns last night, coupled with the Spurs win at Denver, eliminated these Los Angeles Lakers. It put them out of their misery for postseason contention. Stop me if you've heard this before. Michael, did you know that the Lakers as a franchise have missed the playoffs 12 times in their 74 years, including 7 times in the last 9 years? They missed the playoffs 7 times in the last 9 years, and during that span, they've had 4 coaches. They've had 4 coaches, soon to be a 5th, when they end up firing fall guy Frank Vogel.
Mike, the only thing that surprised me about last night, because I told you I was going to stay up and watch it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching the whole thing. Great job, NBA TV, on the coverage. You know, Greg Anthony has some pearls in there. Enjoyed Dennis Scott doing a 24-second interview with Jay Crowder. I mean, I enjoyed the coverage. Really good job. Really good job. Good energy there in Phoenix. The only surprise about last night, though, was that it ended then, because I didn't think that the San Antonio Spurs could do that work against the Nuggets on the road, and they won by 19. So shout out San Antonio. They accelerated this by a day. I knew it was coming. I just didn't think it was going to come last night. But I just want you to put something in perspective, okay? And you did a great job with those stats. I didn't realize that the organization has only missed the playoffs 12 times. That's including the Minnesota years. They've only missed the playoffs 12 times in 75 seasons. That's amazing. But how about this stat? Just to really put into perspective what a train wreck, dumpster fire, S-show, any kind of cliche to describe a disaster you have, to really put into perspective what this was. At the beginning of the season, you know I like to follow the betting lines a little bit. Vegas put out its odds for the NBA champion. Number 1, most likely to win a championship, Vegas says Brooklyn. Now look, I understand what happened in Brooklyn. You know, things went awry. Number 2, ahead of your defending champion Milwaukee Bucks, number 2 is the Los Angeles Lakers. Yep. And they didn't make the play-in tournament. Like, at least Brooklyn can say, yeah, things happened, we got hurt. You know, Kevin Durant, you know, missed his games. You know, Kyrie with the vaccination, James Harden bounced. Okay, they're still gonna make the play-in tournament. For the Lakers to be passed by the San Antonio Spurs and the New Orleans Pelicans, you want to talk about the low-end theory, way down there. They didn't even have a chance
My favorite
to compete.
Twitter follow, StatMuse, points out that since preseason title favorites were first announced before the 84-85 season, the top 2 teams have never failed to make the playoffs.
Wow.
Lakers are the first to do so.
But this is what I'm going to say before I give you. Let me get a Lakers point guard. Before I give you a Magic Johnson pass, and not a Russell Westbrook pass, because that thing can just get turned over. I'm gonna give you before I give you this Magic Johnson pass and let you do it. I'll say the Lakers still don't get it. They still don't understand what happened. Anybody who says and believes, well, we have the tools, which is what Carmelo said, no. If it hadn't been for injuries, no. We could just never get a rhythm, no. You had a bad plan. It was a bad blueprint. Send it back to the architectural people and say, nah, I don't like this design. Bad plan. Bad plan.
Yes and
Bad
no.
plan.
Yes and no. We could have, should have. Many of us did see this coming. And by us, I don't mean me, because I fell for the hype. We talked about this yesterday. I fell for the preseason hype, the names, and the Hall of Famers on this roster, right? But a lot of people were like, is this going to fit? Could Russell Westbrook really be a third wheel on this team? Do they have the shooting? Do they have the defense? Are they too old? So even though they were title favorites, they weren't without question marks. Okay, so so you're right about the bad plan. We know that. Poorly constructed roster. But Michael, even though they were 11-10 when all 3 stars played together, if all 3 of them stay healthier, not completely healthy, you don't have to make the Anthony Davis jokes. I know you got them locked and loaded.
No.
But that's what I'm saying. Relatively speaking, healthier. Yeah. Anthony Davis hasn't missed, 38 games. LeBron James doesn't miss 22, 23 games. If none isn't hurt, if THT isn't hurt, if Ariza isn't hurt. I know it sounds crazy in hindsight to say that now. I know these names don't matter now.
They do, but they do matter. Yeah,
I'm saying,
with you. No,
you know what I mean?
I'm laughing.
They wouldn't be this bad. Well, right. The names themselves, they wouldn't be this bad. I'm not saying they would be title contenders as they were predicted to be, but those guys, just the big 3, those guys would have figured it out to at least get them to the play-in, if not the playoffs.
To the play-in. At least. They would have been in the play-in.
That's all I'm saying. It wouldn't be this much of a disaster. So that's all. I mean, I think I think the injuries are a legitimate excuse, which I call those reasons. I think the injuries are a legitimate reason why they sit here now at 31-48 with a 4-17 record since the All-Star break. Okay? I think that's legitimate. But championship, I agree 100%, is that this was never going to be a championship team based on the ill-equipped and ill-conceived roster construction.
You know what, I'm going to say this just as an aside. I think I'm going to start working on an academic paper. If somebody wants to sponsor me for it, commission me for this paper, that would be great. I'm going to work on an academic paper exclusively for Brother from Another. And it's going to be something like injuries are reasons and not excuses if your roster averages in basketball, if the average age of your roster is like 27 or 26. Okay.
Yeah. Because a lot of people deal with injuries.
Okay.
I guess it is an excuse.
Those are reasons. They're excuses when you got an old roster, you better plan on injuries.
That's true. That's true. But you're right. A lot of teams have navigated injuries to superstars and more and still manage to be better than this. So you're right. You know what? Touche. You're absolutely right. It is an excuse. I could use a synonym or a pseudonym all I want. It is an excuse because a lot of people have injuries. Most people don't count on these 2 players the way that the Lakers do, and therein lies the problem, to your point.
Their season is full of so many riddles, and did that really happen? And do you remember
mysteries
this?
wrapped inside riddles inside an enigma,
right?
Or whatever.
Right, that's it. All that.
Something like that.
There's so many things that you've forgotten about the Lakers that we've forgotten because it's just too much. It's just a volume of information is staggering.
Yeah.
But the funniest thing to me, unintentionally, of course, with the Lakers, the funniest thing about their season, when you mention these injuries, and as Dave McManaman pointed out, Kendrick Nunn still hasn't been declared out for the season by the Lakers. He's missed like 79 games. And they still haven't said he's out for the season. But that's not the funny thing. Here's the funniest. The healthiest Laker has been one of the worst. Russell Westbrook has been the model of health. I mean, he's been out there. Russell has been ready to go most of the time. And it's
that's one thing you can count on. He's going to play.
Yeah. He has kind of been the symbol, and I'm not sure if it's fair. He's kind of the symbol of Laker dysfunction. He's a symbol of the Lakers Boulevard of broken dreams, you know, the whole thing. He's everything that people say, oh, that's not really a Laker, and this is where they went wrong. They should have got this guy instead of Russell, that guy instead of Russell. Okay, bring in Buddy Hield instead of Russell. Bring in Alex Caruso instead of Russell. Bring back Alex Caruso. Are we talking about
they were doomed to fail. They were set up to fail. But you know what's interesting about this though? I was thinking about Michael, and you and I are old enough to remember these days. So conventional wisdom was always that the league is better when the Lakers are good. The league is better when the Knicks are good. And I would venture to say that this is the best story we could have hoped for, because in 2022, when there's a thing called NBA Twitter, the Lakers as a disaster is phenomenal theater and makes for phenomenal fodder. I mean, people were in rare form last night. They had these jokes and these memes and these one-liners like saved in drafts, ready for last night. Because, you know, people show their ass at weddings and funerals. So if last night was a Lakers funeral, people were ready to show out. And it was fascinating to watch the Schadenfreude last night. And I guess, with all due respect to the Lakers, if they're the Cowboys of the NBA, people love to hate them. And LeBron is still a player that people love to hate. And I just loved the amount of people who were there at their creative best last night. So I would venture to say this was good for the NBA. The Lakers you made the bet with Mark J. Spears about them not getting out of the first round, which, man, you really,
I can't wait.
Looking back, I mean, you gave them a lot of room there. You could have set the bar even lower. But the Lakers getting to the first round and losing in the first round, that'd have been boring. That'd have been like, okay, whatever. You know, they underachieved, but like going down in flames.
This is better. Right, this is better.
Exactly. It's fertile ground. Going down in flames is fertile ground for hot takes, and I love it.
And what? How about Anthony Davis trying to get his sports writer on there? We played the clip. Yeah, we had more lineups than wins. Oh, hey man,
it's true though.
Hey, wait.
39 starting lineups. I mean, when you put it that way, I mean, that's not a good reflection on you, but
right. We don't need to hear that. We don't need to hear that from you. You know,
let somebody else tweet that.
We need you to stay in your lane. And it's just a shame. I tell you, it's a shame that, you know, saying what's best for the team is often mistaken as a hot take. I'll tell you, in all seriousness, I'm serious now. I'm serious. What's best for the team is probably, okay, for a team that has no available draft picks to trade in the near future, for a team that is old, it's got an old starting lineup. If you go with the three big salary guys, all over 30. In LeBron's case, well over 30. It's Anthony Davis, by the way. Is Anthony Davis even 30? He's not even 30 yet, is he? Is Anthony Davis 30?
I don't think he is.
I don't think he is.
I don't think so.
He came out when he was like 19. He was a one and done in Kentucky.
I'm pretty sure he's not. Yeah.
That was like almost 10 years ago. Maybe he's like on a doorstep, 29, 30, somewhere in there. But they're old.
Yeah.
They're on
no, I thought you had it right. I thought you had it right yesterday. What'd you say yesterday? And he's 29. He'll be 30 next. He just turned 29. March 11th is his birthday.
Just turned 20.
I think you said it was some one line and you had. He's like, you got a 37-year-old and another guy with the body of a 37-year-old. Yeah. So So let's just say he's 37 for purposes of this conversation.
But
let's just say he's 37.
Really, for a team, and we've seen this in the NFL and in the NBA. When you bring this up, you're like, oh, that would never happen. Okay, well maybe the NBA will copy the NFL. Your best options to really replenish and start over are to either trade Anthony Davis or LeBron James.